Let us see if it appears. When it appears, I will send you the link immediately if you want, of course. Because there in the link, you could actually leave your notes. Let us see. Okay, that's good. Let me send you the link, and you would be capable of seeing yourself. Okay, I'm sending you the link to this chat in YouTube. So this is the broadcasting address. It starts right now, and you will be capable of also watching it later on.
By the way, we can see right into Zoom and click the link up there on the left.
That's fantastic. That's very good. Right. That's very good. All right. So my idea that I actually pronounced last time, and also during all those previous lectures, that pronunciation practice is not so much pronunciation of one particular standard. That is largely, I would call, the practice of the 20th century rather than the 21st century. Because in the 20th century, we were all looking for some kind of single standard, and we would be looking for the correct pronunciation of these single standards. And actually, people in the world were trying one way or another to learn one standard that would be called, I don't know, General American or Standard British or Received Pronunciation and so on and so forth. And from my point of view, it was a little bit artificial. It was not natural, because if you look at the language as it is in its present status, it is not uniform. And this means that the language, if you go around the world, you will hardly see and hear people speaking one standard. Even the so-called Standard British pronunciation that I'm using at this moment, for example, it's an artificial language. And this is the language that I learned in Moscow State University from my teachers. I also worked for organizations that liked to have a single standard of pronunciation. But this kind of pronunciation that you hear from me is spoken probably by less than 2% of the British population. Very few people actually in Great Britain also speak this kind of English that you hear from me right now. The same concerns the so-called General American, which is largely unavailable. And people in the world increasingly tend to focus not so much on individual sounds and on a single effect of pronunciation that looks like standard, but rather they're focusing on clarity, understandability, so that their speech and pronunciation would not be controversial and would not be causing any difficulty generally in understanding them. Therefore, when I called this course "Современное английское произношение," I mean what I wrote. I mean that it is modern, and modern in a sense that it is not single, but it exists in the multiplicity of forms. And it is very important for you to know which form you would want to chase and achieve at the end of the day, so that people in the world would consider you to be an acceptable interlocutor, an acceptable person to speak to, because generally speaking, you are very good in communicating your ideas and in promoting your ideas, in making your ideas understandable, so that people around the world would see and hear you quite clearly. Therefore, I would rather follow the tradition of what is called World Englishes rather than World English. World English doesn't exist. I understand that we all have the so-called aesthetic vision of the language. We want to sound aesthetically beautiful. And if I ask you, for example, do you like the pronunciation of Indian people? I say, well, some people say, well, no, we don't like the pronunciation of Indian people. But if you go to India, probably people would consider this kind of English spoken by somebody terribly attractive. And people will think that, well, somebody who is speaking with a Chinese, with an Indian accent, they will be sounding very, very attractive, right? And this kind of English that I'm talking to you right now, sometimes maybe very, very attractive for even for people who are working in the Indian government or who belong to Indian aristocracy. Right? So this kind of English that I'm talking to you right now of course is a sort of a modulation of an Indian English, right? So and this variety of English that I'm speaking to right now, if I go, let's say, to Singapore or to Japan or to Spain and so on and so forth, will be marked, and people will not consider this to be nice and attractive. Well, you may ask me the question then, what should we do? Should we choose some kind of one non-existent standard variety of British or American, or choose the existing standard that is used in a small locality around the world? Do you get my question? So let me ask it in Russian once again. Что бы вы предпочли? Вы предпочитаете освоение несуществующего в реальной жизни стандарта, который навязан высшей школой, какой-то группой людей, которая посчитала, что этот стандарт является, правильным, основным, или вы предпочитаете освоение какого-то местного стандарта? Он не какой-то иллюзорный, он настоящий, он существующий, но существующий в какой-то небольшой локации, может быть, даже в рамках, не знаю, целого штата или целой страны. Что вы предпочитаете? Стандарт, который, в принципе, универсально понятен во всем мире, или стандарт, который очень хорошо понятен в рамках какой-то локации географической, который вам чисто эстетически нравится? Просто вам эстетически, вам хочется звучать как вот этот вот техасец, или как вот этот вот дяденька из Лос-Анджелеса, или как эта тетенька, не знаю, откуда-нибудь из Кента, из Шотландии. Ведь, я не исключаю, что некоторые виды звуков, они прямо звучат так привлекательно, неимоверно. И тебе хочется говорить именно так. Вот я могу вам ради интереса поставить сейчас, небольшой фрагмент видео, чтобы вы поняли, о чем я говорю. So I will now play for you a small fragment that is spoken with a strong Scottish accent. Scottish accent. And it is beautiful from my point of view. When I listen to that, it is so attractive musically and aesthetically. And I say to myself, if I had a chance, probably, some time ago, I would probably learn this variety of English, and I will be enjoying it thoroughly. And I'm sure people in the world will be happy listening to that kind of English. Okay, let me play it to you, and you will see and hear what I mean. Okay, just 2 minutes. This person is an accent coach. Кто такой accent coach? Это специальная профессия в кинематографе, которая обучает актеров говорить с определенным акцентом. То есть, если актер играет шотландца или американца, то он начинает, accent coach помогает им освоить вот эти вот тонкости и нюансы. All right, let's listen to this wonderful woman who works as an accent coach for the Scottish accent. But we are listening to that with only estimating, first of all, how clearly it sounds, and secondly, how deeply understandable it is. Meaning, do you understand this woman speaking? All right, let's listen.
I've always been interested in accents and dialects and how they change. And I mean, Scotland is, although it's a small country, it is absolutely fascinating how, I mentioned Glasgow, how with Glasgow there's a sort of scoop and rise intonation pattern, There's that kind of feel, they stretch their vowels out in Glasgow. And then as you go up the Highlands, it's a little bit lighter. You can hear the Gaelic processes, aspiration and devoicing coming into the speech. It's a lovely day up there, and it all gets a little bit more softened if you're over in the Hebrides. But then once you come over to sort of Inverness way, it tightens up. You get the retroflex R, where the tongue tip curls back, and there's a little bit more twang to the voice like that. And then over on the East Coast, Aberdeen, it's back of the mouth. Somebody once told me they thought it's because there are strong winds coming off the North Sea, so the voice goes back and you don't open your mouth too wide, and it all tends to go up into the nose like that.
I don't know how much of that you actually understood. Was it very clear to you what this woman was speaking about? And let us first say or you can write in chat, by the way, also quite interesting. From the point of view of aesthetics, if you judge it on the 10 scale, standard, how beautiful it is from your point of view, from 0 to 10. 10 is beautiful, 0 is ugly. Ah, right, 12. Right, somebody says, okay, I see, 7, 9, 4. Right. I understand. You see, again, we see so many different tastes right now here. We see some people consider this to be terribly unattractive, but somebody like it immensely. And this means that if I tried right now to promote one single standard of pronunciation, probably you will have so many different accents and so many different points of view and so many different visions. Okay, let me ask you a dangerous question. My question is the following. Now you are listening to me and to my pronunciation. From your point of view, does it have any aesthetic beauty? I mean, the kind of English that you hear from me right now, if you try to understand that this is not the pronunciation of a university professor, therefore you don't need to say nice words to me, but generally, do you find it attractive in one way or not attractive at all? Again, give your judgments from 0 to 10. Again, we see here so many different points of view, but ranging mostly from, thank you, somebody gave me 10,000 or a million. Thank you so much. Therefore, I consider this choice of the right pronunciation a matter of taste and a matter of the aesthetic tastes very often. Because even if you go to the British Parliament, for example, you will hear not a single variety of English, but you will hear 5 or 6 different varieties of English, people coming from different localities. Somebody coming from Ireland, then from Scotland, from Kent, somebody coming from Ireland, from Dublin and from Edinburgh, right? And also, if you go to the American Congress, again, you will hear a great variety of accents there. And therefore, so my first invitation to you is to choose the variety of English, let's say aesthetically, something that you really like the sound of, something that you would like to copy and to have this music of pronunciation. But then you may ask the natural question, why do we need the standard then? And does the standard exist at all in the English language? Because it is very convenient for us teachers in the university and anywhere in the world also to teach one variety of English, right? Because you may have manuals and then it becomes a commercial matter. Because, for example, if I teach you standard British pronunciation, and if we like to have one standard throughout the whole country, and let's say in a certain country we'll have, I don't know, 50 million users of this language. Isn't it a great commercial enterprise that somebody writes a manual, a book, a guide that will teach 50 million people one kind of pronunciation, and each manual will cost, let's say, the price of one manual will be $1, right? So this means that if 50 million people around the world buy one manual for standard British pronunciation for $1, this person will become very rich. Overnight, this person will get $50 million, right? Overnight. So the standard pronunciation is partially a matter of taste, partially a matter of commerce, and partially a matter of convenience of management of people. Of course, through a single standard, it's easier to promote what is considered to be the elite pronunciation or the pronunciation of the regions, right? Понимаете, если кто-то приезжает из какого-то региона России, да, и начинает вот так вот говорить, хотите вы или не хотите, вы все равно будете воспринимать этого человека определенным образом. Даже если у него в целом произношение будет очень хорошим, или же даже вот я могу говорить с вами вот таким вот образом, и только изменяя один единственный звук, этим звуком будет «г». И поэтому я могу говорить с вами таким образом, но как только вы услышите, что я говорю таким образом, да, у меня будет проскакивать всего лишь навсего один звучок, один малепусенький звучок будет проскакивать в моей речи, вот этот вот самый «г», который неправильно произносится. И все. Вся картинка разрушается моментально. You say, and you will consider this as a marker of my social status, right? As a marker of my social status. Therefore, naturally, it is very easy for governments and states to have such element of control of the population, of people living inside the state, and this instrument of control is pronunciation. Somebody who's speaking with a standard pronunciation is considered to be higher in status than somebody who is not using standard pronunciation, right? Somebody who's coming from the regions will be somehow treated differently. There is a certain, I don't know, bias in that choice. Therefore, on the one hand, the choice of the standard, as I said it, may be an attempt to be neutral. An attempt to be neutral. You say, I like the sound of Scottish. Wonderful. You say, and I will be learning Scottish. But then you will ask yourself for the next question, is it okay if people from Great Britain, for example, hear me speaking Scottish? Will they not treat me specially? If I go to the United States of America, for example, or to New Zealand or to Australia, if I start speaking with a Scottish accent, will they not be thinking that I'm sort of bizarre, strange, and unusual? So the likelihood that they will is very great. Therefore, the choice of the standard is also a matter of your social position. You know, back in the 90s, I worked as an assistant to the British correspondent of The Economist in Moscow. I was working for the English magazine, The Economist, for nearly 10 years. And one day I decided to ask the correspondent, Andrew, what he thinks about my pronunciation and about the way I speak. I asked him, what sort of English or what sort of markers, indicatori, you hear in my pronunciation, I asked him. I said, do you hear that I come from a certain locality, from a certain geographic location? Or I ask him, do you think that I belong to a certain social class and so on and so forth? And he said to me, Marklin, I hear only good education. So I don't hear anything. I don't hear whether you are Russian or German or French or Chinese and so on and so forth. So when he was listening to me, I left in my pronunciation only one marker, and that marker was, or that index or that marker was just an indicator of good education. That's it. So now I want your feedback right now. If I gave you, let's say, 3 parameters, the first parameter is the aesthetic parameter, right? The second parameter is clarity, just clarity, meaning irrespective of the beauty of the language, meaning you can choose any standard as long as you find this standard easily understandable. And the third parameter is the parameter of neutrality, so that people would not consider you as belonging to this or that location or as being a part or a member of a certain social group. So my question is, if you divide 10 between 3 parameters, aesthetics, clarity, and neutrality, how would you divide your taste between the 3 parameters? So you may say, you give 7 to beauty or to aesthetics, but you have 3 parameters, Tanya. 3, not 2. Right. So beauty, clarity, and then neutrality. And it's interesting that what I notice right now, you don't care about neutrality. That's interesting. What I see, and I hear, right, neutrality is not an issue for you, meaning at least by what I see now on the screen, neutrality is has a very, very small value for you, meaning you don't care about that. It's normally either 2 or 1 or 4 maximum out of all. So somebody's giving it to 0, right? It's interesting. I mean, you don't care, meaning whether you are neutral or not neutral. All right. Since it is so, you would choose your goals or your targets or your example for yourself out of the way you actually estimated your choice. Всегда важно понимать, на основании какого критерия вы делаете для себя тот или иной выбор. Вы выбираете стандарт произношения не по причине, что он является неким мировым, типа, принятым стандартом. Не в этом причина, не в этом основа. Ведь во всем этом мероприятии очень важен осмысленный выбор. Я осмысленно хочу говорить на новозеландском английском, или я осмысленно хочу говорить на шотландском английском. И это тоже будет стандарт. Только это будет ваш личный стандарт. Не какой-то там универсальный стандарт, который сделает вас неотразимым мачо. Да, сказать, не в этом вопрос. А вопрос в том, кем вы, какой личностью вы себя представляете, идентифицируете. И если вы говорите, что я хочу быть просто красивым, это один стандарт. Если я хочу быть просто понятным, и неважно, говорю ли я, сказать, там, красиво или некрасиво, я просто хочу банально быть понятным. Это второй вопрос. А третий вопрос. Я хочу быть шпионом и хочу, сказать, в общем, спрятаться по возможности за каким-то нейтральным, абсолютно как чистая вода, как дистиллированная вода, за каким-то стандартом и вообще не показывать свою идентичность. Никак. Так вот, на основании вот этих 3 параметров вы и делаете выбор своего идеала, к чему вы стремитесь. Поэтому вы можете полазить по интернету, поискать, сказать, ну, такие грубые, большие классы произношения. Говорите, что вот там, сказать, там это Великобритания, или какой-то регион Великобритании, или США, или Юго-Восточная Азия, или Австралия, там, вот, сказать, вот думаете. Вы, разумеется, ищете для себя там такую-то эстетику. All right. But then the next question is, we have now here in this group 300 people. And it may seem that these 300 people have 300 different tastes. How can I teach you something that is one? Therefore, I need still to find something that, from my point of view, will be simultaneously beautiful, simultaneously clear, and simultaneously neutral. So I need to do something in order to choose between these 3 parameters and to offer you some kind of a combination of parameters that, from my point of view, is very, very important in general. And I say the following. As I said during the previous lecture, it's very important that you work on physiology of sound in the first place, as I said during the previous class. And physiology means that you control the muscles of your tongue, of your lips, of your cheeks, of your throat. And you control it precisely. You can actually produce any sound that you want to pronounce. Last time I showed it to you, but now I will show it again, and you try just for 1 second, for one small second, try to produce the sound that I'm producing right now, for example, just to see whether you can do this or not. Whether you can use a very, very low variety of voice. Check if you can achieve this kind of clarity of pronunciation using this very, very low voice that doesn't sound as yours. Try it now. Let us see. I can't hear you naturally, but generally speaking, I want to make sure that you yourself are satisfied with this variety of English that you make right now. Okay, I give you 10 seconds to test. Try it right now. All right. So this could be point 1, right? Point 1 in your attempt. Point 2 in your attempt, you can see whether you can produce certain individual sounds, small sounds, and again using your muscles. You can actually produce the clicking sounds like, or other ticking sound like. Whether you can see the difference between silk and shilk and silk, a different variety, right, between in pronunciation. I will teach you occasionally some sounds so that you will see. And it's a pity we're not in the big hall right now. And even with a very good microphone, you can also hear only part of what I'm showing to you. But some sounds have a great specificity. Like, for example, if I take the short vowel O sound, like in the word hot, hot. The word hot, for example, the way it is pronounced in English is different from the Russian O, like поле. Я могу сказать поле, но если я буду произносить слово поле с английским акцентом на этом звуке, то я обязан буду произнести первый «п» с очень сильным выдохом, практически взрывным, включить твердый приступ посерединке звука «о» и вытянуть звук «л». Тогда у меня получится звук «о». Смотрите. Поле. Я буду обязан сделать это именно таким образом. То есть я должен буду взорвать «то», «то». Потом вытянуть «о», сказать его, как будто бы у меня в маленькой комнате эхом отразилось это в каждом углу. Поле, поле, по. По-английски я говорю, допустим, когда я говорю, я позволяю себе взорваться на всю катушку, и звук мой пойдет эхом, будет отражаться от задней стенки моей глотки. Смотрите, я не знаю, как это слышно, но попробуй это сделать максимально хорошо, отодвину микрофон от себя, чтобы не фонило. О! Вот я говорю о, 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 о. Этот звук очень звонкий, очень короткий, как будто бы я произношу его в каменном здании. О! Видите? О! Примерно так звучит, ну, не знаю, там, петух в сказках русских, да, когда он кукарекает. But it doesn't matter if you achieve this level or you don't achieve this level. It doesn't matter. The most important thing is that you make it very, very clear in your pronunciation. And then when you make it very, very clear, you actually achieve your purpose. Because it doesn't matter whether you say hot or whether you say hot or whether you say hot. When you say hot water or hot water, it doesn't matter. People understand you. For example, or I can say a simple phrase, pronounce a simple phrase like, I like her, I like her, I like her. I can pronounce it in two ways. Either I can say, I like her, but in real speech, you will very often hear something different. You will hear the following. Listen. I like her. I like her. I like her. I like her. Not I like her, but I like her. And that would be natural for the English language to pronounce it like that. Or I can take something similar. I can take the following phrase. And the gift he had is very surprising, or is surprising. And so I can say it with a Russian accent or with an accent at all. I will pronounce it like that. And the gift he had. And the gift he had. While in the English language, meaning in British English, it will sound slightly differently. And you will be surprised because it will sound like this. And the gift he had. And the gift he had. And the gift he had. H will be dropping. H. Not gift he, but the giftee. That will be English. But there is a great difficulty in understanding these things, right? Imagine you hear it from the rich person, and he says, and the gift he had. What do you hear? You hear the word, and the gift he had. You see the word gifty, which means талантливый, да? Gifty. Вот то, что вы слышите, когда вам так говорят. Но при этом британец все-таки услышит gift he had. Он другое услышит. Из двух вариантов я выбираю для себя следующее. Это очень важно, очень важно. Я сам не буду говорить and the gift he had. Я не буду говорить gift he had. Почему я не буду говорить gift he had? Потому что в моем понимании вот эта фраза gift he had, она создает конфуз. Может возникнуть недопонимание. То ли я имел в виду gifty, то ли я имел в виду gift-he. Поэтому я буду делать всегда, вне зависимости от того, что я знаю или не знаю, что вот такое сочетание обычно произносится с сильной редукцией, я все-таки буду выбирать and the gift he had. Я буду выбирать что-то, с моей точки зрения, более понятное. Более понятно. Вот мой выбор в стандартном произношении будет в сторону большей понятливости, скорее, чем красивости. Поэтому буду говорить and the gift he had is very important, blah, 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 and so on and so forth, rather than gift he had. And instead of saying and I like her, я буду говорить and I like her, and I like her. So I will create two standards in my head. One standard for my tongue, and this standard will be and the gift he had, and one standard for my ear, it will be and the gift he had. It means that my ear will be capable of identifying this complex parameter words. All right. And yet we all want to sound, occasionally at least, very convincing. Not just clear, not just beautiful, but we also want to convince people. We want to speak in such a manner that people actually understand us. Not just understand us, but also accept us. This is highly important, right? We want to be accepted by the community we're speaking to. And this becomes terribly important for your own personality. Okay, I saved one instrument for you all for the achievement of this general acceptability. Я хочу предложить вам один параметр, который я считаю, в каком-то смысле универсальным для достижения вот этого сочетания удивительного букета, где с одной стороны красиво, с другой стороны понятно в целом, с третьей стороны нейтрально, и с четвертой стороны доступно. То есть то, что люди, слушающие вас, все-таки принимают в вас. Не отвергают внутренне, говорят, это вот какой-то там приехал из тьму таракани, разговаривает как-то непонятно. А чтобы они принимали вас. И этим параметром является, с моей точки зрения, я не раз это испытывал, редукция. That's a very important word, and I will show you now what I mean. This parameter is reduction. Reduction. Что такое редукция? Знаете ли вы, что такое редукция? Вот редукция — это не оглушение, а это уменьшение диапазона звука. То есть вместо, допустим, вы говорите hat, такой вычурной, сильной формы, вы говорите hat, hat, my hat, my hat, my hat. Это разговор, когда ваши губы практически не двигаются, ваш язык практически не двигается, и воздух свободно вылетает откуда-то из глотки, создавая, какие-то понятные контуры. Вот посмотрите, я сейчас с вами разговариваю, активно двигая губами и артикулируя на всю катушку. Но я могу с вами разговаривать немножечко иначе. Я не знаю, вот я сейчас чувствую интуитивно, что я обязан приблизить микрофон, чтобы меня все-таки было понятно, потому что в целом я могу говорить так, что человек, который сидит напротив меня, будет все понимать, однако в удаленном формате, может быть, что-то останется непонятным, потому что я практически половину звуков превращаю в один единственный звук. В один единственный звук. So, if you have, let's say, 12 combinations of vowels, like I can say speak or speak, I can say seat or sit, make it different. I can say sat or set or sit, a great variety of things. Instead of that, I can use one vowel, one single vowel that in English is called schwa. Этот звук называется шва. Этому звуку посвящаются даже целые разделы учебников по языкознанию. Это звук шва. Можете в интернете поискать, он так и называется, там, индоевропейский шва. Что такое шва? это звук, который находится примерно на середине вашего плоского, слегка отодвинутого от зубов языка. Вы должны показывать нижние зубы примерно, ну, вот так. То есть говорить не вот так, то есть когда я разговариваю с вами таким образом, у меня нижние зубы практически всегда прикрыты. А я сейчас буду говорить, повышая ясность, раскрывая краешки своих губов. Буду разговаривать с вами вот таким вот образом. Вот так. Мы обычно используем такое произношение, когда хотим выразить брезгливость, непринятие. Вы говорите, ты съешь этот суп? Да. Ну, чувствуете такое как бы ощущение брезгливости? Да. Тебе вкусно? Ну, вполне. Да, когда я говорю да, ну, вполне. Да. But when I speak English, it's absolutely all right to speak like that. So you show lower teeth. Верхняя губа не двигается. Как только вы задвигали своей верхней губой, вам придется очень сильно контролировать целый поток дополнительных обертонов, которые верхняя губа будет создавать. Не двигайте верхней губой, чтобы не мешать потоку. Поток должен быть свободный. So, when I speak English, I'll try most of all naturally, actually. Naturally. Посмотрите, не говорю naturally, да? Я говорю naturally. Нужно добиться такой речи, когда верхняя губа почти не двигается, губы растянуты, ну, чуть шире обычного. И я вижу нижние зубы. При этом я же хочу добиться такого состояния, когда вот эта вот моя застывшая гипсовая маска находится практически в неизменном состоянии. Я вам сейчас покажу образцы этого, чтобы было понятно. Практически в неизменном состоянии. Как же этого добиться? Очень просто. Я могу этого добиться путем, очень важно, путем редуцирования практически всех гласных, которые я произношу. So I can achieve this variety of English by reducing practically 90% of all my vowels to schwa, to the sound. You may ask me how to pronounce schwa. Okay, it can be pronounced like that. Вот так произносится шва. Еще раз. Шва произносится вот так. Я его не произношу. Вообще не произношу. То есть шва — это какой-то звучок, который появляется между двумя гласными. Шва is the sound or a trace of the sound that normally appears between two consonants. For example, I can say, can you do this? You can say, I can, but then you can actually transform a into schwa. You say, I can do this. I can do this. So I say, I can do it. So can, not can, but just say k and say n. And between k and n, I say nothing. I can do this. Do this. И между д и the вам кажется, что я говорю do this. А на самом деле я говорю д, шва. But in fact, I'm saying d. Then shva and the, and again shva and s. I'm saying I can do this. How many sounds do I pronounce in this short sentence? Two. I pronounce just two sounds. Not 3 or 4 as could be expected, but just 2. So instead of saying, I can do this, right? I can say skin like this, but instead I show my lower teeth. I make my upper lip frozen, immobile. I immobilize my upper lip. And then I say, I can do this. Удобно? Is it convenient to speak like that? It's quite convenient. And it will sound authentic English. It will sound authentic English. In this particular case, you will look quite respectable. And you will look very reserved, as English people do, they look very reserved when they speak. So very often they speak in a very reserved manner. They speak like that. Okay, let me show you one person who speaks approximately in this manner. This is an outstanding American scholar who you probably know him. His name is Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky is a very good, fantastically interesting speaker, and his manner of speaking is almost everything from start to finish, reserved pronunciation. And sometimes you are surprised that the person could be so unemotional when speaking. And even when you listen to him, you can't immediately identify him as an American speaker or a British speaker. He's not marked. He's very neutral, and he doesn't move his lips very actively. Okay, let's listen to Noam Chomsky. And, well, to some extent, this could be a very good example for you to follow when choosing pronunciation. Okay, let's watch him. Noam Chomsky.
I just know it has an unbreakable grip, but I can't tell you what it is. It's just life's empty without it. I have to say, the people who really impress me when I have a chance to meet them are people whose names nobody will ever hear. So, for example, you know, in Southern, well, let me give you a very personal example. A couple of...
See, he's saying personal example. He's saying personal example. He's not saying personal example. Personal example. He's not saying that. Personal example. Personal example. Only occasionally we hear his retroflexed sound like r. Personal, he may say personal, right? And he's using retroflex only from time to time. In everything else, it is almost entirely reduced variety of English.
Months ago, I learned that extremely poor peasants in southern Colombia, whose lives are being destroyed in part by US-run chemical warfare called...
Okay, so this was Noam Chomsky. But at the same time, you can listen to somebody else who is also an American speaker and whose English is different from Noam Chomsky. And his difference is in the fact that he's trying to be very, very clear, ostensibly clear. So Professor Steven Pinker, and he's trying to be very, very clear about practically every sound that he's pronouncing and every bit of an idea that he's turning. So Steven Pinker is very clear, but I will never choose Steven Pinker for my example because I will understand it's very difficult for a beginner to imitate him. Okay, let's listen to Steven Pinker.
Policing matters. This was brought home to me as a teenager when I lost an argument with my parents on what would happen if the police disappeared. And I was, at the time, I had a kind of romantic anarchist sensibility from the Russian biologist Peter Kropotkin, that it was the presence of law and property and police that caused violence. And my parents said, yeah, just you wait. If the police ever walked off the job, all hell would break loose. And it just so happened that in 1969, the Montreal police force they went on strike. And so we had a day without police and all hell did break loose. There were 2 murders. There was widespread.
Now, my question is, do you feel strong enough to change your personality to a very neutral kind of personality where you could be, on the one hand, very expressive, very emotional, very clear and straightforward in Russian. То есть по-русски вы можете говорить вот таким ясным способом, убедительным способом, то есть даже, в принципе, проталкивая свою точку зрения. While when you actually move to English, you suddenly change the whole of your position, and you suddenly become very reserved, where just many of your sounds become almost, or all of them, flat. So I'm not saying flat. I can say flat. But instead of saying flat, I'm saying very reserved, very flat. so that people would actually perceive me as a very unemotional, neutral personality, and personality who is who can actually control himself or herself, reaching the best they can do in achieving it. Now, I will ask you to ask you the following question. Just give me either 0 or 1 for your preferences. 0, you say, yes, I can and I want. Reduce all my vowels and all my pronunciation to 0, and speaking in an unemotional and clear way, where instead of, let's say, 12 vowels, I'll be pronouncing almost in all cases, let's say, I wouldn't say 1, but the variety of 1 sound. While you will write 1 if you say, no, I'm against. I'd rather work hard to achieve great clarity in speaking very convincingly, right? Where each of my sound actually will sound very clearly. So my recommendation is to bring it to nearly 0 on the one case, which I think is a very is the easiest way to do. I see again a great variety of people. So many people would choose this reduced variety of English and would be quite happy with that, and they will sort of be like hiding their own personality from 0.6. That's interesting. So they will be hiding their personality, right, from the community, and they will be focusing almost exclusively, right, on understandability, general understandability. But I think it's not bad if you have this as one possible variety of speech, and where people can actually see your face, understand your position, but sort of see that you're hiding your emotions and hiding your personality behind something. And this hiding of personality behind a certain brick wall is important. Правда же, что у нас иногда есть желание не сильно раскрывать свою личность? Мы иногда в некоторых ситуациях хотим скрывать свою идентичность и хотим говорить так, чтобы люди не сильно распознавали, что мы за люди. И в этом случае, конечно, по-английски, если мы говорим по-английски, нам подошла бы вот эта разновидность произношения, это неполный стиль, где мы, так сказать, продавливаем все до самого низу и произносим только индоевропейский шва. Еще раз, индоевропейский шва. Растянутая нижняя губа, видим зубы фактически 8 нижние, верхняя губа практически не двигается, рот достаточно широко раскрыт. И, кстати, есть еще один важный момент. У нас в русском языке мы практически всегда говорим наружу, поэтому у нас и губки вытягиваются очень часто вперед. Мы такие открытые люди, мы говорим наружу, нам вот как бы хочется этот звук дотянуть до собеседника. Тогда как по-английски, я сейчас тоже самое скажу по-английски, тогда как по-английски мы говорим большую часть времени как чревовещатели. То есть мы пытаемся говорить таким образом, чтобы звук как бы шел не наружу, а шел как бы внутрь. Мы как бы экономим дыхание. То есть мы как бы говорим, но нам хочется дыхание оставить у себя. Я не знаю, то есть, скажем так. So when I speak Russian, very often I prefer to speak in such a manner that people understand me, and that is why I actively use my lips. And actually, by protruding my lips, I'm trying to achieve greater impact with my audience. While in the English language, I prefer to be more reserved. And I speak like the ventriloquist, как чревовещатель, like the ventriloquist. How to achieve that? This can also be used as one interesting instrument that you can use almost daily. So when you inhale, когда вдыхаете, when you inhale 4 parts of the air, in Russian, when you speak, you exhale 5 parts. You inhale 4, but you exhale actually nearly 5. То есть по-русски, когда я разговариваю, у меня полный выдох. Ничего практически не остается. Я очень искренний человек. Ничего не остается. While in English, I inhale 4 parts, but I exhale 1. Попробуйте вдыхать 4, а выдыхать в речи 1 кусок того воздуха, который вы вдохнули. So, I can say, every time I talk to you, actually, I try to speak in such a manner that I will have enough air, actually, to stay in my lungs for as long as possible, right? And at this very moment, I'm talking to you without actually thinking very hard about how much air I have in my lungs. I can actually talk to you for nearly 5 minutes without inhaling. Смотрите, я с вами довольно долго говорил сейчас на одном единственном выдохе. На одном единственном выдохе. Как при этом выглядел мой корпус тела? Он выглядел примерно как бы вот так. То есть я как бы стремился удержать весь воздух в себе и произносил только кусочек своего воздуха. На плоском языке, на приоткрытом рте, и поскольку губы были растянуты, рот приоткрыт, то меня было слышно очень хорошо. So, in the English language, if I want to achieve this kind of pronunciation, I would say the ventriloquist kind of pronunciation, my lips are spread and my lungs keep the greatest amount of air that I pronounce. So I'm not exhaling everything. I'm exhaling only 1 part out of 4 that I inhaled, which is very important for the creation of this kind of effect. Знаете, даже если вы говорите по-русски вот с этой физиологической техникой, вы будете звучать вполне по-английски, как ни странно. То есть я могу вдыхать и при этом говорить с вами вот таким вот образом. Я понимаю, что мне бы хотелось бы говорить очень экономно, практически не двигая губами. И при этом, по всей видимости, мне нужно опустить свой голос. Тон голоса должен быть понижен. И тогда, выдыхая лишь небольшое количество, я могу создать примерно тот же самый эффект говорения. So, you can experiment it by yourselves, working at home individually, in order to achieve this kind of clarity and pronunciation. And maybe little by little you will achieve this level and you will pick it up. You will take this instrument as a very important instrument and useful instrument for the achievement of this general effect of non-emotional speaking, clear speaking, convincing speaking, not marked by your geographic location, not marked by some kind of social indicators, but just individual and clear, where you're reserved and at the same time are not trying to persuade anything of anything. Okay. But again, I'm saying, like, as a small break now in my exercises, I will say that this can be achieved, certainly, by experimenting a lot with your speech organs and with your tongue, with your cheeks, with your throat, for the achievement of greater ease in reaching a certain status of pronunciation. All right, let me show you a couple of exercises, not myself, but I will show you some videos that you can use from time to time to improve your physical condition of the physical condition of your throat and of your mouth. The physical condition is highly important, and you should be working on that nearly every day, irrespective of whether you are speaking today or not speaking. This should become a part of your daily practice, like brushing your teeth, right? Like physical jerks in the morning. That is very important. Likewise here. Okay, let me show you as a small break a couple of exercises that you can use for the achievement of the necessary level of pronunciation. Okay, one moment. No, this one. Excuse me. One moment. Right, I'm sorry. Okay, now I can show it to you. All right.
This simple sequence underlies a great deal of pop music. A kick drum, this simple sequence underlies a great deal of pop music. A kick drum, a hi-hat, and a snare drum. Now add a double sound to your hi-hat. Using silent gaps can give your groove more shape. You can also combine sounds to make new ones, adding together an unforced snare sound with a hi-hat gives you a different groove. The next combination works best when it's performed faster. Even though the rhythm is written in groups of 4, the feel turns into a 3-3-2 rhythm. Put all these sequences together to build a groove. Sequences like this are usually performed in groups of 8, 16 or 32. Now develop this by creating your own grooves.
So these simple exercises, like this one, I will show you one more actually, is also the development of your pronunciation skills, because you can actually achieve pronunciation if you want. And you can achieve that only if you control your physiology, right? And also mentally can produce different kinds of varieties of pronunciation, not only working on individual sounds, as I said to you right now, but you can also work occasionally from time to time on some general pronunciation skills like accents that we have. I'll show you now one very interesting example of how the television anchor is trying to imitate the speech of the Black community in the United States. And by doing that, he's achieving great empathy with these people. People are enjoying his way of speaking. And you can also, while listening to that, try to achieve the same kind of auditory effect while listening and check what is it that you are doing in order to achieve this effect. All right, listen to the imitation of the Black community speaking in the United States by the television anchor. This is something like the Вечерний Ургант, the same kind of, it's called Late Show, and see how the television anchor is achieving that. And then I will give you 1 second to see whether you can achieve that yourself or not.
Jeg begynte å bable, jeg bare jugde. Jeg sa jeg hadde bodd i Asia i 6,5 måneder, lagd skive med Dalai Lama, Gandhi var onkel. Jeg bare
Er
pratet
dette en
piss.
spøk, eller har du sagt at du har lagd skive med Dalai Lama?
Ja, du finner det på etiopisk TV hvis du finner det på internett. Jeg tror ikke de har det, men...
We have internet. It is a box in the basement. Bare racist. Det var ikke
Jeg ble
rasistisk.
rørt fordi det var autentisk du hørte det der.
Thank you.
En gang til, en gang til.
I have a box in internet. It's in my basement.
I love you!
Yes.
I love you! My brother!
My brother. Finally, we come together.
We are together.
But we make a rest of the interview like this.
You too?
Yes. But we wonder because you are from Africa.
Yes, I'm
But
from
when you rap, it's not like the African English. It's American. You
Yeah.
say things like yo, what is up?
You don't think we say things like yo in Africa? We say things like yo in
You
Africa.
say things like yo.
We
also.
say things like yo.
Yeah, but you sound very American. You could have done you could have gone like begging, I think about that things. I don't know what you're going.
Jeg kødder ikke! Jeg blir rørt!
All right. What I show to you right now is could be one of these examples. So and you may be trying to produce this kind of English, right? By repeating certain parts of that kind of pronunciation. That would also be an exercise in trying to achieve this kind of pronunciation, right? So what I'm trying to do right now, I'm trying to reach the level of freedom that allows me to switch between different accents and modulate my voice and my pronunciation very easily, depending on my intention. And this of course requires a lot of exercise, not just pronouncing individual words for hours non-stop with little emotionality, but I insist that your emotionality would be high enough so that you would actually move from one kind of pronunciation to another without any difficulty. And this mental switch, that вот умственный переключатель, который у вас возникает в голове, когда вы с одного типа произношения на другой тип произношения перескакиваете, он включался моментально. Понимаете, вот я говорю сейчас по-русски, но в то же самое время я могу говорить с другим акцентом. Да? Что я такого делаю? Я что, 55 звуков настраиваю у себя во рту? Когда я говорю таким образом, да, то есть я пытаюсь что-то такое включать в моей голове. И если вы меня спросите, как я это делаю, то я, пожалуй, вам не смогу сказать, как я это делаю. То есть мне требуется какой-то моментальный переключатель, как щелчок. Он возникает, и ты моментально это произносишь. Как ты это делаешь? По всей видимости, есть какой-то один маленький звучок, один. Ты его меняешь, и он вытаскивает за собой все остальные звуки. So you should be exercising doing that very easily by copying people and imitating people all around the world, switching from, I don't know, from American to British to Irish to Scottish and then to New Zealandese, from the English or the black community. You're switching easily from one to another. And occasionally, I would recommend you doing something that may be quite specific, but reading out loud. Reading a page out loud, like you are reading, for example, to me for your zachot, for your test right now. And I will show you one very interesting example that, from my point of view, is just brilliant, and it gives you such a great vision of how you reach an excellent performance, but just imitating a single purpose, by imitating a single person and achieving great skill in that. And this is, I wonder whether I can find it very quickly for you. There was a contest where people were competing in pronouncing, I'll try to find it very quickly and download it. I think I didn't have it before. I was just thinking and failed to download immediately, but I will do this right now. So one person was just reading a letter, and this letter was a letter of a man a man with great wisdom who was addressing his girlfriend or somebody who was just trying, and he was trying to comfort her by asking her not to worry about it. This is a letter. This is called the letter to Eve, and this is pronounced by two different people. Okay, let me play one, and one is read by Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm sure you will like it. One moment, I will play it to you right now. Okay. And then I will give you the task to read the same when you are at home alone. So listen to Benedict Cumberbatch reading this letter and try to achieve the same kind of emotionality and clarity in delivering this message.
Dear Eva, April 14th. Almost a month since you wrote to me, and you have possibly forgotten your state of mind. I doubt it, though. Seem the same as always, and being you, hate every minute of it. Don't. Learn to say fuck you to the world every once in a while. You have every right to. Just stop thinking, worrying, looking over your shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for some easy way out, struggling, grasping, confusing, itching, scratching, mumbling, bumbling, grumbling, humbling, stumbling, numbling, rambling, gambling, tumbling, scumbling, scrambling, hitching, hatching, bitching, moaning, groaning, honing, boning, horse shitting, hair splitting, nitpicking, piss trickling, nose sticking, ass gouging, eyeball poking, finger pointing, alleyway sneaking, long waiting, small stepping, evil eyeing, back scratching, searching, perching, besmirching, grinding away at yourself. Stop it and just do.
Okay. That's a very good example, right, of how you could actually pronounce things. And simultaneously, you could actually compare this kind of pronunciation with some other kind of pronunciation of something that is very similar. Okay, let me again spend one more minute to find that second variety of pronouncing the same stuff. I actually reserved it, and then I couldn't say that I lost it, but it is not immediately available to me right now. And well, I'll try to do it. One moment. I think I will find it in a minute and play it to you so that you would have the opportunity to compare this to compare two kinds of pronunciation. So now you heard the way Benedict Cumberbatch was pronouncing it, and now you will hear nearly the same sort of stuff, but actually pronounced by a different person. And this person is also a famous actor. Interesting. What would you think is better, the first one or the second one? Let us see. Andrew Scott.
April 14th, 1965. Dear Eva, it will be almost a month since you wrote to me, and you have possibly forgotten your state of mind. I doubt it, though. You seem the same as always, and being you, hate every minute of it. Don't. Learn to say fuck you to the world once in a while. You have every right to. Just stop thinking, worrying, looking over your shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for some easy way out, struggling, grasping, confusing, itching, scratching, mumbling, bumbling, grumbling, humbling, stumbling, numbling, rambling, gambling, tumbling, scumbling, scrambling, hitching, hatching, bitching, moaning, groaning, honing, boning, horse shitting, hair splitting, nitpicking, piss trickling, nose sticking, ass gouging, eyeball poking, finger pointing, alleyway sneaking, long waiting, small stepping, evil eyeing, back scratching, searching, perching, besmirching, grinding away at yourself. Just stop it and just Do!
Okay. So one and the same text, actually pronounced in two different ways, Benedict Cumberbatch and Dennis Scott, right? And they were producing different varieties of pronunciation. And what sort of exercise is that? This exercise is an exercise in pronouncing, in reaching the emotional condition by articulating very clearly so many words in succession. And you're not thinking so much of an individual word, but you're thinking about how to pronounce a chain of words. As if you are singing a line from a song, right? There should be a certain rhythmical chain that should be achieved. And may I ask you, as one of the exercises that you would be performing, that you will be actually preparing for one of the classes, is just taking this this letter. I will now show it to the screen, the whole of it. You make a picture of that. One moment, I will show it to you. Right, one moment. Okay, that's the text of the letter. Take a picture of that text, and try to record the reading of this specific letter, imitating either Benedict Cumberbatch or imitating Andrew Scott, as you wish. You may find this reading in the internet and YouTube easily. I will send you the links, though, you can find. And it's not necessary that you should produce it exactly, but you should produce the sufficient clarity and the difference between the so-called reduced pronunciation when you're saying, "Dear Eva," you see, I'm pronouncing it actually without moving my lips, "Dear Eva, it will be almost a month since you wrote to me, and you have the possibility of forgotten your state of mind. I doubt it, though." See, I'm pronouncing actually without moving my lips at all and moving my tongue. So I'm sort of producing a schwa variation. You seem the same as always, and being you, hate every minute of it. So now I begin to gradually increase the emotionality of that. Don't learn to say fuck you to the world once in a while. So you're gradually increasing it, and then you come to the situation where you have to pronounce almost every sound. Like, just stop thinking, worrying, looking over shoulder, wondering, doubting, fearing, hurting, hoping for the easy way out, struggling, grasping, confusing, itching, scratching, mumbling, bubbling, rumbling, humbling, stumbling, numbling, rumbling, gambling, tumbling, scrumbling. And so you continue like that until you achieve the necessary speed of pronunciation. And this is not so much the pronunciation not so much an exercise in the pronunciation of individual sounds, but rather the pronunciation of based on a certain rhythm, which is highly important. I'll probably stop here because well, I have lots of other material actually to add to this later on. Those who have not yet added your UID number here in chat, do this right now.